Good morning, guys. Sorry I can't be here today, but what we're going to do today is we are going to begin our next unit, which is going to begin with verifying trig identities. And verifying trig identities is remembering back to what you did back in geometry when you had to do proofs. So these are our trig identities where we're going to be proving how you can create an expression and rewrite it into some other form. And the front page of your notes has some tips on how you're going to do this. The big tip is you're only going to be working, this is not an equation you're solving, so you only want to work on one side of the equation at a time. And again, it's better to work on the more complicated side. So when you look at both sides of the equation, pick the side that's the most complicated. You do not work on both sides. Again, you're proving how you can rewrite one side of the equation equal to the other. Another thing you want to do is some algebraic techniques. If you see two terms and you only want one, so you have two terms on one side of the equal sign and you are trying to rewrite it down to one, add any fractions or do some factoring. You may want to multiply by a clever form of 1. In other words, you could multiply numerator and denominator by a conjugate, or multiply by sine over sine or cosine over cosine. Any algebra that you see, distributing, squaring, or multiplying polynomials. Trig techniques. Again, look for trig expressions in alternate forms. So for example, we know sine is equal to 1 over cosecant. If there are squares, any squares in there, look at your Pythagorean identities. See if you can do a Pythagorean identity substitution. Try converting everything into sine and cosine. And then always keep an eye on where you're going. Keep an eye on the end. See how you want your final expression. Sine and cosine go well together. Tan and secant go well together. Cotangent and cosecant go well together. All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump to page 3. We'll come back to page 2. So here's an example of a problem that we need to prove. So we need to prove that cosecant of theta times cosine of theta is equal to cotangent theta. Hopefully you agree with me that the left-hand side of this equation is more complicated than the right. So I know that I want to somehow rewrite cosecant and cosine into some form of cotangent. So if you think about what cotangent of theta is equal to, again, you have your blue sheet, cotangent of theta is equal to cosine over sine. Well, I'm going to go ahead and just work on the left-hand side. I already have my cosine, so what I really need to do is bring another sine into this. So cosecant of theta, I can rewrite as 1 over sine theta times cosine theta. And the reason, again, you need to justify your step. And the reason why I can do that is by your reciprocal identity. So you need to justify each step that you are doing. Then step 2, I can go ahead now and I can multiply. 1 over sine theta times cosine theta is cosine theta over sine theta. And again, my justification here is I just multiplied. You need to show me every single step. And then finally, if you look on your formula sheet under your quotient identities, you know that cosine over sine is equal to cotangent of theta by your quotient identity. And you're done. Okay? Again, you want to match. You want to get one side of the equation, you want to rewrite the other side to the other form.